taking on bureaucrats and corporations that would stand in the way of health freedom and making sense out of medical propaganda. The voice of health, freedom, and liberty, Robert Scott Bell.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back to sleep, another zombie rears its ugly head. Didn't we have enough zombies, Super? I mean, how many zombies do we have to have? Like the CDC zombie apocalypse. We got the zombies in South Florida eating people's faces off on not cannabis, but on some kind of bath salt, right?
Right.
What other zombies we just learned about?
Okay. I mean, zombies are big right now. I'm a big fan of the show on AMC, Walking Dead. You know, you got all these zombie movies. You've got...
I thought you were going to say you were a big fan of the Sean Hannity show.
I'm not. Well, yeah,
that kind of zombie?
Fox zombies. Yeah.
There are all kinds of zombies. I mean, just the zombie nation that we live in, and it just doesn't end. And today we're learning about a different kind of zombie we've got to talk about as we launch the Robert Scott Bell Show today. And it's not Halloween. We're not doing a themed show, although we will do some a movie review of a Batman movie coming up with Liam Sheff. That's going to be kind of interesting. But the zombie we're talking about are FDA-approved zombies, as most of them are nowadays, are they not? Most of them are FDA-approved zombies. That's why the CDC got into the act to try and regulate this stuff because, hey, look, we're government. We know we're creating zombies. We've got to manage this situation. But new questions now are being raised about the sleeping pill. Guess what? Ambien, after Kerry Kennedy, double K. The ex-wife of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo may have been under the influence of the sleeping aid while she was involved in a crash with a tractor trailer on a New York highway and left the scene. Now, I can guarantee you that Kerry Kennedy is not a fan of the Robert Scott Bell Show. In fact, I'm thinking no Kennedy. None of the Kennedy clan listen because they're all drug addicts. And they're all
or something, alcohol or drugs. Right?
But it's all approved by government. At least you see, big government and the Kennedys go hand in hand. We know that. Even though we know that big government and the Republicans go hand in hand, in this case, classic with the family of the Kennedys, with government-sanctioned addictions, in this case, Ambien. Now, remember, we'll talk about sleeping well, because I remember that story years ago we told this, how somebody came to me, they were on Ambien, wanted to get off. I got him off of Ambien within like 3 nights. He was sleeping like a baby. No drugs. We'll get to that. But Kennedy was arrested and charged with driving while impaired on Friday. She's due in court, I guess, today. And this is Kennedy's telling the police that she may have had this Ambien sometime on the morning of Friday, right? It wasn't even she took it at night. She took it Friday morning and doesn't remember. But her family said in a statement released to ABC News that there were no drugs involved. Excuse me? What is Ambien? It's not a drug? What is it, a food? Vitamin A? There's so many vitamin A's now. Another vitamin A. Vitamin A3, Ambien. Look out! Now, if you take a breathalyzer, Ambien doesn't show up. It doesn't show up, but it can show up in blood and urine test, but it didn't in terms of the alcohol. So it wasn't that she was drinking like, who was it that was the drinker of the family? The big drinker was Chappaquiddick Kennedy.
This might be too soon, but I believe it was Teddy.
Yes, Teddy had a big problem with Teddy Kennedy had a problem with alcohol. Now, he could not use the Ambien excuse, the Ambien defense in Chappaquiddick. But in this case, and I'm not even saying that they're using it as an excuse to get off. It may be the case that some cases they are, but it's legitimate. This stuff is for real. You do Ambien, you're going to wake up. You're going to have, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, they're telling me that you can drive places. You can eat eggs with the shells on them in the middle of the night. You could even have marital or non-marital relations, let's just put it politely and delicately, without even knowing that you're doing it under the influence of this Ambien.
That's absolutely crazy. Crazy that all of these things can happen.
Yeah. Buttered cigarettes? Look at this.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. I mean, I can understand doing weird things because you're on this drug, but buttered cigarettes, I don't get that.
I'm a fan of eating eggs and even raw eggs. I am. I've had them. I'm looking at Amish, like local, maybe produce your own eggs, but the shells, too. Calcium carbonate is never an optimal form of calcium for absorption. We don't eat eggshells. But buttering your cigarette?
Yeah, maybe that'll be like a new craze at the next county fair, because you know how they deep fry everything. Got deep fried Twinkies, deep fried Snickers.
Fried buttered cigarettes. For those of you on Ambien, just line up over here to the left with the Kennedys. Come on down. Now, of course, this Susan Lask, evidently, she's a plaintiff's lawyer. Is she also pretty much a crusader, too, on this thing? And she says that 39 million people take Ambien. 39 million. This is sad. How many people in America just can't sleep? They don't know that they're not supposed to eat in the middle of the night. They're going to, as I said, have marital relations without knowing it, driving without knowing. I mean, this is just not. I mean, if you want to do any of those things, wouldn't you want to know you're doing it?
You would think so,
Isn't that the
sure.
point?
Especially one of those in particular. But this Ambien obviously is weird stuff.
Well, Super Don, I believe we have a clip here. What is this clip we're going to play?
This is attorney Susan Lask. She was on the Today Show talking about what happened with Kerry Kennedy.
Investigators say after the crash, Kerry Kennedy spoke of taking Ambien, a strong prescription drug. The sleep aid even carries warnings to not drive after taking it, as well as the possibility of a side effect where users engage in activities like driving without being fully awake.
It looks like they're drunk, but they're not. It's Ambien affecting a certain percentage of people in this way, which I term Ambien zombies. People drive without absolutely any memory of doing it.
You think I was making the Ambien zombie thing up? This is for real. I mean, this is the kind of thing that gets approved by your government. And, of course, the Kennedys don't seem to have any problem with it, but how many people are hurt or killed potentially, much less choke on eggshells in the middle of the night? This is not good.
Yeah. And, this Susan Lask, she's been after the Ambien situation for a long time. She was on this, what they call a relentless crusade from 2006 to 2007, where she was going after the FDA, kind of doing like a Jonathan Edmord thing.
Yes.
And actually got the FDA to admit to the dangers that were existing with the drug Ambien, and actually got Sanofi Aventis to include those warnings that she was saying that they needed to, so that at least people had an idea. Because prior to her doing this, people didn't realize that this stuff was a possibility.
I'm sure that Sanofi Aventis knew and the FDA knew, but of course you got to have this happen enough to where people will raise a stink and Congress will hold hearings and they won't ban it. But hey, the Kennedy family, they've got a long history here. Kerry Kennedy's cousin, former Rhode Island rep, Patrick Kennedy. Remember him? Crashed into a barrier near Capitol Hill.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he's, this was where we were skeptical about it early on. He was not drinking. He was with Ambien. I was under the influence of Ambien, so that's where this thing started up.
In 2006, her cousin and former Congressman Patrick Kennedy crashed his car into a security barricade near the U.S. Capitol in the middle of the night. He blamed his disorientation on Ambien and another drug he'd been prescribed. He pleaded guilty to driving under the influence of prescription drugs.
Well, when you're on another drug on top of Ambien, it gets pretty scary because the side effects include increased levels of suicidal behaviors, etc. And we talk about the 39 million that are supposedly taking Ambien. It says here 60 million Americans were prescribed a sleeping aid, right? Sleeping aid. And I'm thinking, how bad off are we that we need drugs to go to sleep? I mean,
60 million Americans, that's a lot of people. And these other sleeping aids, they've got side effects too. Maybe not quite the same as Ambien, but I guess it depends.
Yeah, sleep cooking, sleep sex. I mean, like I said, that used to be considered something else, but now it's a drug-induced FDA-approved side effect. Yeah. And, you could wake up and you don't even know where you are. And so,
I mean, there was even a story where a lady was sleep cooking. She fried an egg in her sleep. How dangerous is that?
Well, let's hear straight from Sanofi Aventis with the FDA-approved advertisement that you always hear at the end. What's going on with Ambien?
When taking Ambien CR, don't drive or operate machinery. Sleepwalking and eating or driving while not fully awake with memory loss for the event, as well as abnormal behaviors such as being more outgoing or aggressive than normal, confusion, agitation, and hallucinations may occur. Don't take it with alcohol as it may increase these behaviors. Allergic reactions such as shortness of breath, swelling of your tongue or throat may occur and in rare cases may be fatal. Side effects may include next-day drowsiness, dizziness, and headache. In patients with depression, worsening of depression, including risk of suicide, may occur.
Yeah, and if you're a lady,
I'd rather have trouble sleeping.
I know. And if you're a lady, you may end up pregnant. You didn't know how it happened. I mean, they've become the new immaculate conception.
How can you even think about taking something like Ambien if you actually listen to that list of side effects?
Oh, it's amazing. And, of course, what we do here on the Robert Scott Bell Show is give you options they will not give you in the mainstream FDA-polluted media. And if I hearken back to the story, the original Ambien encounter that I had was with a dear friend who became a dear friend who I worked with for some years. And when we first met, he couldn't sleep. He was on Ambien. And I said, I told him about the dangers. This was many years ago, we knew, because we're way ahead of the game on those things. And certainly he was open to it because he worked in a holistic environment, even though it was new to him. And I said, all right, we got to get your liver in order. And for him, and in many cases, it's the congestion of the liver that is disruptive and disallows, so to speak, or makes it difficult for normal sleep to occur. Because in America and the West, we ignore our organs. We just diminish their function with every drug that we give it. And if we want to have good sleep, we've got to realize the liver is working extra hard. It's regenerating. It's helping our body to regenerate and detoxify primarily, most actively, while we're sleeping. And so if the liver's congested, you are going to have disruptive sleep cycles. But there's not one doctor, allopathic medical doctor on earth, unless it's like a Dr. Bitar or Gonzalez, these guys and gals that are out there that understand this, that is going to say, hey, how's your liver? Right? And so I got him on some liver herbs. I put him on an Ayurvedic herb. I think we got him on some extra selenium from ChooseToBeHealthy.com. Jonathan hooked him up. And sure enough, within 3 days of just getting his liver back in order, and it wasn't major, he was sleeping like a baby without Ambien. Took him no time at all. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to have that in 3 days or less, but it could happen more often than you like, more often than you know. I mean, I know you like it. Another thing is a big disruption to nighttime sleeping is nighttime hypoglycemia. People either eat too late or they're eating refined carbohydrates and basically having a blood sugar spike and then potentially a drop, which is the hypoglycemic event, which creates this, oh my gosh, I got to wake up and eat. Now, Ambien might be inducing this hypoglycemia as well, which could indicate why the eating could be occurring. I'm not certain. That's just a speculation on my part. But here's where I would also want you to do that 100 micrograms of the GTF chromium, and you can get it from Jonathan. It's 866 424-1077, 866-424-1077, and you'll get plugged into neutralizing that hypoglycemic response in the overnight hours. There are some amino acids like L-tryptophan that can help. Some people do well on melatonin. I'm not saying that's my first resort, but I think looking at liver, looking at pancreas in the way that I do, more often than not, you'll be able to correct that sleep pattern within short order, as long as you're not, hopped up on not only Ambien, but 10 other drugs that many people are. So there's a little comprehensive overview and a short, brief segment for you, Super Don, to start the show.
Yeah. Well, hey, anytime we can start off talking about zombies, why not, right?
That's it. That's what we got to do. Hey, really cool stuff. The Batman movie's coming out. Liam Sheff and I are actually going to review it, go into a little bit of the graphic novel basis for this thing. Is this one going to be a good one, or is it going to suck? We're going to tell you after this. Also, Stephen Hewer, my dear friend from One World Way, we've got an hour dedicated to real people, real healing, talking about hometown healing. Maybe you have experienced some of these things we're going to talk about next hour. It's an incredible, really, really heartwarming stories of healing with the whey protein that is undenatured. I appreciate y'all being here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Check it all out at robertscottbell.com. 866-939-BELL, 866-939-2355. Back with Liam Sheff and some movie reviews for the summer after this.
Ask your prescriber about Ambien CR for a good night's sleep from start to finish.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.